justice for all.
Okay, everyone have the correspondence? Your section of correspondence? Any comments from the assembly that aren't on the agenda? Yes.
Couple different things. I weekly attend the Pay Office of Open Records conference call they have for training on Right to Know in the Sunshine Act. On the calls, it's customary to ask for the A and nay votes when a vote is taken, and a public discussion should be asked for prior to the votes. Can I ask why the board does not do this? Also, my next question is financial procedures. I understand that there were some questions in reference to the Carnival and the financial procedures. As far as I know, there isn't a procedure, because we were actually asking that as well in reference to these T-shirt sales, and it was going to be also the book sales for the Carnival. So there's two comments that I think should be addressed. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, minutes of the previous meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 9th meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor? February 23rd, workshop.
Nobody has any questions or concerns? Make a motion to accept the February 23rd workshop.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Treasurer's report.
Joan, has Jack or Jeffrey made any comments that we should be aware of?
No, real estate taxes are starting to flow in, so we're gonna start seeing the revenue picking up.
Make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Expense list?
Can you speak up a little bit? We can't hear you.
I made a motion to pay the bills for the expense list.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Zoning and hearing medical marijuana ordinance 302.
So if you want to start the hearing, the minutes can reflect this is the beginning of the should reflect that the proposed ordinance has been advertised twice as required on February 22nd and March 1st. The proposed ordinance has been reviewed by both the County Planning Commission and the Township Planning Commission. The Township Planning Commission recommended that the board approve the ordinance. And so this would be the opportunity to discuss the ordinance, take public comment. You can then close the hearing out and consider the ordinance on your agenda in the ordinary course.
Anyone have any questions?
Would you like me to summarize it in any great agreement as you discussed it at your last meeting? I'm happy to do that again if you'd like.
Yeah.
Sure. So this would permit medical marijuana grower processor facilities and medical marijuana delivery vehicle offices in your I-1 and I-2 industrial districts as a conditional use. It would permit medical marijuana dispensaries in your IOP industrial office park district and your C3 highway commercial district. It would permit academic clinical research centers in the I-1 and the I-2 district. All of these uses would be by conditional use, which would mean that an applicant would need to apply before this board. There would be a public hearing concerning the proposed use, and you would have the opportunity to impose reasonable conditions to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. That is the gist of the ordinance. It's going to allow those uses in those targeted areas. The rest of the ordinance defines various terms consistent with state law, imposes certain standards also consistent with state law. You don't have a lot of discretion to impose standards beyond what is allowed under state law.
Where's this gonna be? Where is
Wait,
this?
we'll wait and see if any, Jack, do you have any additional questions?
I have no question.
Jeff?
I have
Paul?
No.
No? Okay, so any comments from the audience?
Where will this be? I don't know what I-1 and 2 and IOP, I don't know what all that is.
That's our zoning districts. IOP is generally down there by Walmart, across the street, the airport property. And C3 is, borders the Turnpike, 176. It's, the name of the district is Highway Commercial.
Like near the swimming pool and, Heritage, in that area, or
That would be C3, I believe.
like near, we have this near the casino?
Possibly. I mean, this is just providing a place for them to possibly put a marijuana facility in our township, so they can't by right put it anywhere. But, there's no proposal at this time that I'm aware of.
Anyone else? Anyone make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
So just to be clear to everybody, this is just, we do not have an ordinance for this. So this is, so we have one, so we're ahead of the game before someone brings something forward to the township.
And the minutes can reflect the hearing is now closed.
Okay, so next on the agenda, we have a policy for video recordings. We're gonna push that to the next meeting. Did anyone review policy for public township meetings yet? Or do you wanna push that to the next, so you can actually read it? Okay, so we'll push that to the next meeting. Next, we have RKL Carnival Audit Report. Okay, so we have someone here from RKL.
Oh, yes.
Maybe, mind if I take my mask off to talk?
Yep, that's fine. We're gonna ask that everyone refrain from asking questions until the end.
I have just some clarifications before we start. Got a few questions. Why is this not included in the regular audit?
Yeah, let me explain how the regular audit process works and the difference between the procedures that were done here. So these procedures are what we refer to as agreed upon procedures. So they're much more in-depth than an audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. So the way we do an audit is we get all of your financial records that you have, all of your transactions, and your financial records include some transactions related to the carnival. So we take those records, and you have a $2.8 million budget for 2021. It may have been different, I'm sure it was different for 2019, it was different for 2020. We take that number and we calculate what we call materiality. So we take that $2.8 million and we multiply it by a factor. And then we take that factor and we multiply it by 75% and get a different materiality, what we refer to. Anything over that second factor, that 75% of our original number, we have to audit 100% of that. Anything that's under that 75%, what we do is load that data into a statistical program, and we select a sample of the transactions. So when we look at that, it takes all of your transactions of the township, puts them in, and then selects a sample of those transactions. For the carnival, from a revenue standpoint, in 2019, there were 4 transactions out of all of those hundreds of transactions. So the sample didn't pop out one of those 4 transactions, but they're in the sample population, so they have an equal opportunity to be chosen. And those samples are based on statistics, and we don't develop the formulas for those. Those are developed by the statisticians. That's the methodology for an audit. What this does as an agreed upon procedures, it really takes more of a laser focus just on a specific subject matter or class of transactions. So this is in much more detail. So to say that Carnival wasn't included in the audit is a misnomer. The transactions that were recorded in the general were included in the audit and had an equal chance of being selected in the sample. It just happened of those 4 transactions that were recorded in your books, none of those 4 were selected in that sampling process.
And is that why the cost is so much for this particular thing? Because I think the regular audit only costs $9,000, and this is between $4,500 and $7,500 for this audit.
You'll see when we go through this goes into a lot deeper detail of it and looks at things that we wouldn't normally look at as part of the audit process and goes deeper into those.
Now, my next question is this an audit
No,
or an investigation?
it's an agreed upon procedures.
Everybody in this room, who's talked to this gentleman? Raise their hand.
Who's talked to him?
Yeah, as
I
part of the
never saw you
process.
before.
No, as part of the process
Oh.
of going through this analysis.
So, did he talk to you?
Hmm.
Why would an auditor, if he had a question, not go to the person that was in charge?
I didn't need it, I don't have any unanswered questions related that I
Would you
need Paul
speak
to
up,
answer.
please? We
I
can't
can't-
hear.
Oh, I'm sorry. My comment was I didn't have any unanswered questions that I felt I needed to go to Paul about.
But he would be the one to go to if there was any questions. If he didn't know, he could tell you where to go for. He's the main man. I don't understand why you didn't talk to him.
When we look at
No,
when we look at a particular area, we start broader and we pull in the circle and talk to who we feel we need to get the answers.
So it's an investigation.
Right.
it's an investigation.
You can,
Let's call a spade here.
You
It's an
can call-
investigation.
you can call it what
Sir.
you want.
Just wait until the end, till he's done, and then we'll call for comments from the assembly.
I mean, I could write it up as an investigation. It's currently written up as an agreed upon procedures where the board agreed to have me look at certain transactions and procedures.
And I don't understand why you had to talk to everybody if there was no problems. If there was a problem, you should talk to him.
You haven't heard my report, so you don't know if there's a problem. Does anybody in this room know the results of this report?
Just don't know,
Anybody.
we don't know why
But
why
you just said
even got to
wasn't any
there.
problems, that's why you didn't talk to him.
Can I do my report?
He didn't even start yet.
Excuse me.
Yeah, can I just do my report? You're attacking the outcome of a report, you don't even know what it is. That's a little silly.
Well, I'm just curious. It seems odd to me.
That's the way we do it. I'm sure you do the same way. Big circle, come into where you need and stop. You don't have to, yeah, I was gonna say, you don't have to answer. But we know how it's done. So this is an agreed upon procedures, and this is made up of specific testing of transactions. It's also looking at some documentation related to it, and then there's recommendations related to those documents. You can take the recommendations and act on them. You can do whatever you want with those recommendations. They're recommendations for this board. It's your decision on what is acted on in the outcome of this report. So you want to scroll down to the next page, it says procedures. Right there. So these are some of the things that we looked at. We looked and summarized the receipts and expenses related to the carnival that were provided to us. If the documentation isn't there, we have to work with what we have. We looked at carnival expenditures related to what was approved by the Board of Supervisors. We looked at carnival revenues and looked at the gross revenues, the commissions related to the carnival activity, and then the deposits into the bank account. We talked to individuals associated with the carnival as deemed appropriate, and then we tabulated if we saw any discrepancies noted in any of those things. So the first thing that we did was start with the tons of fun contract, and there's going to be findings and observations here, and then I'll go into more of the details on what the recommendations relate to that. So the first finding and observation is the Board of Supervisors approved the signing of the contract by Paul Whiteman on June 26th of 2018. The contract was actually dated June 16th of 2018. So it was dated before it was approved by the Township. We all know that. The contract provided was for 2019, 2020, and 2021. You want to scroll down? Under the terms of the contract, the Township is to receive 20% of the gross receipts or 25% of above gross receipts of $50,000. So up to $50,000, you get 20% of that as the Township's commission related to the carnival. Anything over $50,000, you get 25% of that. It also said the vendor will provide 10 to 16 amusement rides, and if your gross revenues from the carnival are under $20,000, they'll give a contribution to the Township of $700. If the revenues are over $20,000, they'll give a contribution to the Township of $1,200 related to those rides. They'll provide a certificate of insurance that says we'll email upon renewal to sponsor prior to event. I believe that means renewal of the contract to hold the next carnival. Sponsor will provide ticket sellers, be responsible for ticket and accounting of tickets and the cash, and then the payment must be made each night at the end of the carnival. So the township gets their 20% at the end of every night. The carnival gets their 80% at the end of every night. And then there's a clause in there in the contract that says the vendor requires the sponsor to commit to their performance per the conversation, as is, where is. Contract will be null and void should the sponsor not meet their verbal agreements. So in looking at that, there's a couple logical things. This is all common sense we're going to talk about tonight. It's not magic, it's not something that, oh my goodness, it's not earth-shattering. So if you want to scroll down to the recommendations. So you have a contract that was signed June 16th, but it wasn't approved by the board till 12 days later, 10 or 12 days later. The board should approve the contract before you sign a contract. That's just common sense. Now, the board did approve in June of 18 a contract for 2019, but the contract that was signed was for 2019, 2020, and 2021. So it was different. The contract that was actually signed was different from what was approved by the Board of Supervisors. As I noted, it did say that they would provide a certificate of insurance. The township was unable to find that certificate of insurance, and it wasn't in the records that were provided to us. It also says the township is responsible for tickets, accounting for the tickets and the cash. Based on the documentation, it really appears that Tons of Fun is accounting for the tickets and the cash and remitting of the net proceeds to the township. So it's a little flipped around, but it's not something that can't be fixed. And I thought it was odd that the contract had a statement in there that says performance per the conversation. That's a very vague statement, and it winds up into he said, she said. So if you're going to have provisions in a contract, I would try to have them as spelled out as much as possible. Now, I'm an accountant. I'm not an attorney. Eric's your attorney. Eric's the guy that should be reviewing those contracts, going over it with the Board of Supervisors and saying, yeah, we want minimum insurance coverage of this. We want this clarified as per the conversation. We want these other areas within the contract clarified. Again, it's all common sense. There's nothing magic here. We looked at, yeah, keep going. We looked at the event contracts. So, again, it's a contract. Should have your solicitor look at your contracts. So the contracts were entitled Event Vendor Contract 2019. There was numerous reference to dates in 2019. For example, in a number of the contracts, it said the event date was June 11th, 2018 through June 15th, 2019. Typographical errors, but fixing that sort of stuff, having it reviewed by your solicitor to make sure that it's tight and has in what it needs. Again, just common sense. We talked with a number of folks from the township and some folks on the Carnival committee. And the contracts, there was a couple different types of contracts. So there was $100 for tent space without electricity, $150 for building space with electricity, $200 for trailer space with electricity, and then for-profit contractors were to contain an additional 10% gross sales fee in addition to that. So we noted through our procedures, I believe there was 16 contracts. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then out of those 16 contracts, there were 4 that had that 10% fee in it. There was a requirement within the contracts related to certificates of insurance. So if a vendor wanted to exhibit at the carnival, they had to go to their insurance provider, get a certificate of insurance that protects the township against any loss related to that. One of our inquiries related to that, was there anything established as far as minimum insurance requirements? So usually when there's a contract out there, the board will establish a minimum requirement of some sort. So we saw some contracts with $500,000 of liability insurance. We saw some with $1 million of liability insurance. But there was no basis for it to determine what those minimum requirements were. Can you scroll down a little bit? And then, as I said, there were, of the 16 contracts, we could only find 13 of those contracts. Total vendor fees related to the contracts was $1,500. There was a total of vendors in all of 16. Those vendors provided about $1,900 to the township. And there's a summary. There's a fire company. Because of the nature of it, I assume there was no fee associated. There was the athletic association. Off to the right, you'll see notations from the contract. There were some not-for-profits that were out there. There was one not-for-profit that had a 10% gross fee added to it based on sales, but they were utilizing the pavilion. But it wasn't in the contract related to the use of the pavilion related to the additional gross receipts. And then there was 2 for-profits that paid $100 that didn't have the 10% fee in, one at $150 that didn't have the 10% fee in, and then the other 2 had the 10% in. So there's a little inconsistency in some of the fees, but a board established fee schedule related to exhibiting or having a stand at the carnival would solve all of these problems. It's not something that's unsolvable. So the vendor commissions paid totaled about $1,040. There were some additional commissions received related to pony rides in the amount of $437. And then Tons of Fun paid an advertisement fee of about $382. We did not receive a contract related to the pony rides either, and that wasn't included in the above numbers. So, recommendations, I've already, you want to go to the top of the page. I've already alluded to them or talked about them. The rates and terms should be standardized. You should tell the individuals, and it should be a board-approved rate, that if you're going to, if this is your type of exhibit, this is your fee. If this is your type of organization, you're a not-for-profit, this is your fee and rates associated with that. So just put it out there and approve it and establish it so everybody knows and everybody's on the same page. As I said, we didn't have 3 contracts. They may have been signed and just misfiled or lost. All of those contracts should come back to the township building and they should be maintained in a township file. So everybody needs a contract, everybody should be here. And then one of the other things I'd suggest is you establish minimum insurance requirements for the vendors and then have them also make sure it's named to the correct covered. So when I looked at the contracts related to this and I looked at their certificates of insurance, some were made out to Carnarvon Township, that's great. Some were made out to the Morgantown Carnival. The Morgantown Carnival is an event, it's not an entity that exists. So just give your vendors, whoever they may be, some direction and say, look, this is a Carnarvon Township event. This isn't a Morgan Carnival event because it's the township that you're trying to really protect through this process. Let's go down to event ticket revenue. So this is a summary of the event tickets. You sold a total of 108 mega passes in advance at $50. You sold 61 mega passes during the carnival. You sold some wristbands. Wristbands are only done on 2 nights, the first night Tuesday and I believe Thursday during the week. The other nights wristbands are not available. Wristbands lets you ride unlimited rides for that day. The Mega Passes lets you ride unlimited rides for the length or the duration of the carnival. There was ticket sheets. There was 4,000 of those sold. And then there was about 775 tickets. And these are based on daily ticket sheets that are turned in by Tons of Fun and then signed by somebody that's involved in the carnival, either on the carnival committee or otherwise. Now, the tickets, those sheets have the tracking of the beginning and ending ticket numbers, and it's recalculated off of that, how many tickets are sold. I don't believe there was a sequential ticket numbers related to the Mega Passes. Part of that is because of how they're sold. If you buy one in a pre-sale, you pay your $50 to get that mega ticket. You pay for that mega ticket. You get a ticket that you bring to the carnival when you want to redeem that ticket, and that's when you get the wristband for the Mega Passes. So based on the tally sheets that are out there, when you total them up, we came up with $57,643. The tally sheets came out with $57,598. $45 difference, probably a transposition error. If you switch two numbers, an 8 and a 9, or a 9 and an 8, it's always it's going to give you an error. You want to scroll down a little bit? So when we looked at it, that was gross revenues. When we looked at it from a total commission, the township's 20% versus the township's 25%, calculated out, we came up with $13,111. They came up with a $12 difference. Okay, part of it is that $45 we just talked about, 25% of that. And then my numbers up there didn't have the dollars or the pennies, or didn't have the pennies on it, so they're rounded. So if you want to scroll down to the findings. So when we talked about that $45, there was a multiplication error on the June 13th sheet related to some of the wristbands. That's what generated it, 2 wristbands plus a little bit of rounding for $1. Based on a review of the daily sheets that are signed by both the carnival personnel and somebody from the township. Now, I would recommend, they were signed, it looked like they were signed at the end. I can't tell if somebody from the township came and looked at those tickets at the beginning and verified, yes, we're starting with ticket number 10,000 and we ended with ticket number $15,000. So make sure that you're documenting the accuracy of the ticket counts as you go through it, so that, yes, I'm verifying we started with ticket number 10,000 and we ended with 15,000. It's a documentation clarification section. As I said, there was no sequencing related to the wristbands or Mega Passes. Therefore, we really couldn't recalculate the number sold based on the data. We did note on the township's, or the carnival's Facebook page actually, that it started accepting credit cards, and I believe it accepted credit cards in 2018. We contacted the township and said, what's your credit card policy? And they said, we don't accept credit cards. So the credit card funds are being sold in advance, and those credit card funds are going into a third party's account. If you're going to sell something with a credit card, no matter what the source of the revenue is, it really, one, it needs to be approved by the township, and 2, the funds related to it need to go directly into the township's account. We shouldn't be doing third parties. We shouldn't be putting township funds in third party accounts. Whether or not that third party really is aware of the process and what's happening, I don't know. Quite honestly, I don't know who that third party is. Now, when you do that, you know, we talked about some of those funds. The Mega Pass sales for advanced sales totaled about $5,400. So you have $5,400 of cash or checks or credit card sales that were sold prior to the start of the carnival. Those funds really should be remitted over to the township when those funds are collected. It shouldn't wait till the end of the carnival process to remit those over. When it's collected, it should go to the bank the next day. It should be deposited into a township account for adequate tracking and also safeguarding of township funds. Go down a little bit. We did ask about documentation on how those funds that were sold through credit cards were remitted over. There really wasn't any supporting documentation that was available to us in the discussions. It was, well, it was part of the nightly reconciliation when the mega passes were redeemed. So when we looked at the daily count sheets, we saw the cash. We did see sales related to a mega pass coming in that totaled $1,000. That could have been the remittance of the credit card receipts. When you look at the total picture and you look at the daily sales sheet and you calculate the percentages, and that's assuming the daily sales sheets are correct, it did work out. We had that $11 or $13 difference, whatever it was. Now, one of the things that's really should be addressed immediately, the carnival was held on June 11th, 2019 through June 2015, but the proceeds from the carnival weren't deposited into the township's bank account until July 11th of 2019. Your daily proceeds from the carnival need to go into the township's bank account the next day. We shouldn't be holding those funds for an additional month to do that. Again, all this is common sense. There's no rocket science here. It's all logic. I'm going to skip down a little bit to the next page. We talked about this, the ticket sequencing for the beginning and the ending. There should be some verification and documentation related to the starting point of the tickets and also the ending, but you should sign off on both. Yes, I verified the beginning. Yes, I verified the ending. All the cash transactions should be under the dual control of township personnel or representatives. So, 2 people in the ticket booth, 2 people counting the money, 2 people writing up the deposits, those type of things. That's just a good, safe internal control to have. As I said, the township's not authorized to accept credit cards. Since the township since a carnival is a township event, all the transactions should be maintained in township accounts, not deposited into third-party accounts. If credit cards are accepted, then the township needs to go through, develop, review, and approve a credit process or a credit card process, I should say credit card process, in advance of accepting credit card payments. And then, as I also said, the proceeds from the carnival should be deposited on a daily basis and reconciled daily to the ticket and vendor sheets. We'll talk about other revenues next. So you have other revenues from a number of different sources. It was indicated there are some donation barrels that are located at various locations within the township. There was some question as to whether, I know there's one here at the township, there was some questions as to how many additional barrels there were, if there were additional barrels related to that. There were some sponsorships that were obtained from the community. Those range from $100 to $1,000, depending on the related sponsorship recognition sign. The bigger the sign, the bigger the dollars, obviously. There were 29 sponsors, and those sponsors generated $9,100. And that's generally, when you hear about folks raising money related to the fireworks display. That's primarily what those sponsorships are related to. As I had said before, there were 16 outside vendors. They generated about $1,900. Commissions reported from 5 vendors total $2,057. That equates to, they had sales of about $20,570 based on a 10% commission. There was a stage donation of about $250. There was no name noted associated or related with that donation. You want to scroll down? There was some ice sales where the Carnival would go out and purchase ice and then resell that ice to the vendors throughout the process. And then there was also expenditures related to the Carnival that were actually paid out of some of these cash items. So when we looked at things, you want to go down? This is a summary of where we wound up with everything based on what we have. So we looked at the commission revenue, $13,000, fireworks donations, all of those things. The net revenue that was generated related to the Carnival was about $28,832. There was expenditures paid in cash of about $2,200. We anticipated that there would be deposits in the bank account total of $26,632. We saw deposits of $26,052. There's a $580 difference. We're waiting for some additional invoice or some additional documentation related to vendor contracts to make sure all the vendors paid within that. There also may be some other receipts out there. So based on the records that we had, it all netted down to a difference of about $580. Could be other expenses out there. Could be any number of reasons for that difference. You want to scroll down a little bit? So in this area, what you really should be doing is providing to the board on a timely basis all of the details in a format similar to that last section. Here's our gross sales, here's our commissions on those sales, here's our expenses related to those, and then all of the activity related to the Carnival really should be reported in the township records. So as I said, there were 4. But, there's a lot of other detail behind all of those. There's a lot of $100 collections, there's a lot of $150 collections, those type of things. And those transactions really should be reported more so on an individual basis than a gross basis. All expenditures should be approved by the township. Now, with $2,200 of items that were paid in petty cash, there's a certain amount of expenses that come due during the Carnival activities. So let me back up a little bit. The expenditures that should be paid should be approved by the township. The township should know about the $2,200. The township should approve the $2,200. As it says up here, there's certain expenditures in cash during the operation. A specified petty cash fund could be established by the board in advance of the Carnival. It says, okay, the board is authorizing the Carnival committee or this group of individuals to pay X number of dollars in expenses as petty cash during the Carnival operations to facilitate the Carnival process. Reconcile that petty cash. You were approved for $1,000, $2,000, whatever. You spent $1,500, show us the receipt for that, and deposit the remaining $500 on it. Again, this wasn't an audit. This is going down and looking at really the depth and detail of the transactions that were available. Now, if you're questioning the sheets from the vendor and the gross ticket sales, we don't have information to do anything related to that. When I look at the total revenues, take out the mega passes, if you're assuming that somebody that didn't buy a mega pass spent $20 a night at the carnival, and you had about 2,500 people riding the rides during that week. There's no tracking, there's no attendance, there's no numbers to support how many people that attended your carnival or rode the rides. What you could do, if you really want to go a step further, is on a periodic basis, a scheduled basis. You wouldn't tell the ride vendors, you go and you do a head count on how many people are riding that ride. And maybe you do it once an hour for each ride. And you'll get an average throughout the night, and then you can go back and you can calculate the number of rides or what your expected revenue is. Is there any questions on this? Is there anything I needed to go to you directly, Paul?
I just wanted your
That's
answer.
why I didn't go directly to Paul, because I didn't need to go.
Can I ask something?
That's their discretion.
Do we have more, do you have more information, or
That's it.
that's it? Okay. Does anyone on the board have any questions? I mean, we're gonna have to redo
We need
some
procedures.
procedures, yeah.
We need procedures.
Okay. Anybody have questions in the audience?
I have one, but I'll go for her. Can I ask you guys, if you waited 10 or 11 days to put that money in, if it's up to you guys all have to decide, how can you put that in every night? You have to have a meeting every single day to go over everything.
No.
You probably didn't put the money in, right away because you were waiting to have a meeting to go over it. Am I right in surmising that? No,
No,
you just
I-
waited that long to put it in?
No, I work a full-time job, so I did it on the rain day when I could get the money to the bank.
Okay, but they didn't have to, it wasn't in place where they all had to agree on everything, every deposit that you made.
No, the township gets bank deposits almost daily, or multiple times a week. You don't
I
hold
know.
it to the meeting, so you just make a bank deposit and you go.
No, it's not that easy, I mean.
But there's other folks that can make a bank deposit. It just,
I have a question. Given what he said in the beginning of his conversation here, was basically that the carnival could have been, or the carnival wasn't, I guess originally you guys had said that they didn't do the carnival because someone had told him not to do the carnival. So it didn't appear that that's the story, the same story that he told. He's saying that there were 4 transactions that could have fallen into it and they didn't happen to. So in lieu of that, I guess I now have a problem with the fact that you took the money, that the carnival is paying for this audit.
Exactly.
This needed to be done. We need procedures. We needed to hear what they had to say.
But he's saying it was random. He's saying it was a random pick out of the budget through formulas.
And it's not like we had any procedure that we had to follow up
We
until
need
now.
procedures. That's why we're doing this. And
But why are
we
you
keep
getting
saying,
punched
"Why
in the
now?
mail for
Are we supposed to never do it?"
$7,500?
If we turn a blind eye and we don't take care of it at this point, at what point do we say, oh, you turned a blind eye and you didn't take care of it when you knew that procedures need to be done? We're doing it now.
I mean, I think it would
Why
have
don't
been
we
safer
move
to
ahead
just do a
and
procedure
stop
than
bashing
spend
Paul?
$7,500 for this. I mean, in there, aren't you the one that approves all the contracts and does all the contracts for your business, with notary?
I don't approve them. they just get
And the
dropped off the mail
insurance
and I bring them
certificates
right
and all
here.
that stuff goes
I
through
don't
your
even
business?
open half, I just bring them right here.
Am I-
I'm just a collection area for them to
But
drop,
you're
just like the
reviewing the
township
contracts,
news.
the insurance contracts when they come to your business. And they're paying
All
you
I
a
do
check.
is,
The notary.
I take the
Right.
check, and I take the contract, and I usually give Paulie a call and say, hey, they're here, I'm gonna drop them to the township for you. I'm just a
And you check to
collection
make sure
drop
they have
spot.
their certificate of insurance too.
And I have notes on others were saying, and I called and said, look, they don't have insurance. And we held a lady up till like 5 minutes before the carnival started, because she did not have insurance. But
Well,
that's
now
not my
it's saying
job,
that
I just
they're not
notified
putting
them
in
that
places,
she
so
didn't
that'll
have
fall
it.
back on you.
But I'm not part of, it was just a collection, they just dropped it, and I made sure it got here, and I called and let them know. Every time I had one that got mailed in or dropped off, I said, it's here, I'll drop it to township. But I wasn't part of any approval, and I would skim over it if it was open, but if it was, the envelope was closed, I just dropped it. I'm a drop area.
Well, here nor there, we could sit here and we could argue about this all
Right.
night, but the thing of it is, we need policies and procedures to go forward. We wanna keep this event, I know the staff wants to keep the event, we just have to come up with something that we can go by, some guidelines. I mean, obviously, you brought stuff to our attention, I'm not an accountant, okay? When I came to this board 7 years ago about this event, everybody thought it was a great idea, but nobody wanted to do anything. Go to Park and Rec. Park and Rec thought it was a great idea, nobody wanted to do anything. So we talked about it for an entire year. That next year, I took the bull by the horns and I got a committee together and we did it. Nobody told me how to do it,
And
we just did it.
And if the township comes up with policies and procedures, that's approved by the majority of the board, that's your roadmap, and that can be, here's why it was done this way, and here's the fee that was charged, and here's the procedures. To do things on the fly creates an atmosphere like this,
But when you say on the fly, what do you mean by that?
without policies and procedures.
Okay, I got you, because I mean, this is gonna be the 6th year for the event, and this is the first time we're hearing about any issues, so that's what I'm talking about.
Wouldn't you say that we did pretty damn good considering we had no procedure? I mean,
Absolutely.
we're within a couple of $100.
And obviously, our lawyer never checked over the contracts, and you had the contracts, you knew about the contracts, you approved the contracts, so stop throwing it all on us, when all the board members and the solicitor should all fall down for the same.
No one has to fall down, we need to get things right.
The last couple of meetings, I watched videos of, and Mr. Steyer over there was hounding people. One person, not even putting us as a whole as a committee, but hounding one person. And then I remember when this carnival started, the first year I wasn't involved. The second year on, I've been involved. He used to sit up there when he was chairman and say, we can't do this because the carnival cannot make a revenue for this township. Well,
That's a lie. That's an absolute
January,
lie.
February 9th meeting, he also sat up there and said, I thought this was gonna make us money and improve our parks and improve this and improve that. Did I not build you a $25,000 stage over there with donations from all your local businesses that are now out of using their stage, that they would spend $5,000 a person because you have a problem with the carnival now? Didn't Pico bring in new electric? We rewired all their buildings? Is that not an upgrade, Alan?
Well, what do
What are
you
you
call,
talking
we're here
about?
talking
I
about
can't believe the
procedures
lies
and
you
getting
just
things done
claimed.
right.
Whoa, you wanna watch the
I'm
video?
not here to
Well,
argue.
here's the video that you stated that,
The lies about
didn't
me
upgrade
claiming
nothing.
that the carnival's not making money. I never concerned about it. All I was ever concerned about is, are we following procedures, which we weren't. Money was being turned in a month after it was collected and stuff like that.
Alan, I think he's talking
we don't
about
have procedures to follow.
down on Paul.
Why didn't you have
last meeting.
procedures in place when the carnival first
That's
started?
exactly what I'm saying.
That was the carnival committee's job to do that.
Okay.
I take offense to that. I don't believe that it's the Carnival Committee's
Michelle
responsibility to put
Michelle has the floor.
Okay,
And listen to yourself, Alan.
few questions here. Okay. Paulie took the initiative and started the carnival. We have an attorney that we pay to help us out. So he should have noticed that we didn't have a procedure. So that's been like, 7 years? That is a problem.
Michelle, that's
5.
been done. My office has notified and
Okay.
advised the board multiple times that procedures needed to be enacted. The board
Well-
has never tasked us with doing that.
Okay, well then, back to that, then the board hasn't ever put a procedure out that we are aware of so that it could be followed. So to actually portray that this attorney, this accountant are here for an audit is a misnomer. For us to even have brought somebody in, for how much did this end up costing us?
We
I don't know how to check the bill list, but it was beneficial.
How's it, personally, I don't know what they did that we could not have done internally. And to basically, you should say, okay, all right, oops, we should have had a procedure. Okay, from this point on, this is how we're gonna handle it. For the negativity that were in this last meeting that's on video was totally inappropriate. And
It's always
I do
inappropriate
not,
anymore, Michelle.
what?
Everyone's so angry and
What?
they're always arguing.
No.
Get to the point.
Well, basically, I'm saying why do we spend money on basically an audit firm that basically provided us absolutely nothing we could have done by ourselves?
Well, we didn't
But-
know that at the time, did we?
I mean,
I mean,
it's,
this is information that
there's
we
no
can
reason to
use.
have an accountant do
Okay,
that.
What do you have on next?
Are we gonna
Anything
use
else?
it to the good,
So,
or
yeah.
are we gonna cancel it saying,
Is that
oh?
it, Michelle? Does anyone else have anything to say?
Yeah. So I do think that RKL did do what we asked them to do, or what you guys asked them to do, gave us policies, recommendations. I do feel that it was beneficial. I don't think that it should come out of the Morgantown Carnival, pot, but whatever. I do think that that's something that we can take and move forward for the rest of the, ongoing years, hopefully. Because I don't think that we can talk about this. I mean, Eric just alluded to the fact that he's been telling everybody that we need to put policies into place, and it's been 6 years and it hasn't happened. This is at least a very large step moving forward. So I think it is a good thing. Yeah, that's it. I'm not gonna go deeper.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go deeper.
No. All I ask is that if you are gonna make policies and procedures, I would like the board to be included in some of our meetings to see what's involved in running
Agreed.
Carnival.
Agreed.
I mean, it's not just something simple like him coming up here and saying this, this, and this. I mean, there's a lot involved in it. I mean, and in the contract, running ticket booths, dealing with cash, every
Yes,
night.
so basically, we're gonna need the contracts, we're gonna need the vendor contract, we need to review all that as a board.
Well, we need to come up with a policy on what you're looking for. I mean, obviously, the way we wrote it up, I thought we did what Eric asked when we wrote our contracts.
Right.
If it.
But I think some had, I'm not sure when the 10% got dumped in there, but I mean, we gotta make sure it's consistent and everyone is
The
on
only
the
reason
same.
it's not consistent is because I don't charge the 10% to nonprofits. My nonprofits, I want them to make money. I don't charge the nonprofits that's only businesses.
The original Carnival in 2015, this board approved the vendor contract, and it had no 10% in the contract. They were renting the space, the only difference was whether they paid for electric or not. Somewhere along the line, you added the 10% in there, and we found out after the fact that they were paying it without it being in the contract. Scott Moyer was one to say, you can't hold them responsible for a payment that's not in the contract. It was like a verbal, then you added it to the contract years later, but the board never approved those
We need to have
contracts.
it consistent, we wanna move forward.
It was in the
Yes.
contract.
It was
The
always
year
in
we
the
charged
contract
for
when
it,
they
it
did
was
it.
in the contract that my vendor signed.
Yeah.
We only did that the last 2 years, 2 carnivals.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I think it's pretty clear to everybody that things have kind of been disjointed over the last 5 years or however long it is. And you're not going to change whatever happened over the last 5 years or so. You're at a point now where you say, you know what, these are issues that we need to look at and develop some type of policy or some type of procedure related to it and move forward. If you're gonna argue about what happened over the last 5 years, you're just gonna waste your time, everybody's gonna get PO'd,
Right.
and you're not gonna move forward.
Agreed.
It
Agreed.
happened, it wasn't the best, so
We learned
look
from
at
and
it,
move-
take a
move
step
forward.
back like I did, look at it, and say, how do we make it better? And then document your conclusions so that everybody's on the same page. This type of vendor pays this type of vendor pays that. When we collect the cash, the deposit's gonna be the next day. If I'm not available, this person's going to do it. If we're going to sell MegaPass tickets and we're gonna take credit cards, it's gonna go into this account with the township. If you're not gonna collect credit cards, then you don't collect credit cards, but maybe you'll accept checks. So whatever those policies and procedures are, establish them, document them, bring it to the board and agree to it, and that's your carnival process.
How do we get this done for this year?
Quickly,
We have less than 3 months
Yeah.
for our event,
quickly.
and it's gonna be a lot.
So we need to gather all the contracts up and go over the procedures, like you have tallies for the tickets, right? The starting numbers, the ending numbers. Do you have that
Eric
in your
doesn't have
procedure?
anything to do, he can look at it.
Right. Do you have written procedures for all that? If you bring all that,
There's no written procedures for any of
I
it.
mean,
We don't have
there
written-
is
It's all in
no
the contract with
procedure, it's just
Carnival.
something that the staff has done.
Right,
I mean,
right, so
I mean,
have it in
I-
writing, so then if there is something wrong, you say, okay, well, this is what we do. We started with ticket 1, and we have 1,000 tickets. This day we went through 1 through 100, we signed off on it, we still,
Well,
we're gonna start with 101.
That's what Tons of Fun does. Tons of Fun
Okay,
does
that's
at
on
nightly
that
for
page.
us.
Okay, that's
And
what I
and that's on the
Yeah.
contract,
Yeah.
it's on the daily sheets.
When's your next Carnival Committee meeting?
We haven't had one because we've been held
We're at
up
a
waiting.
standstill.
We're told we can't have it until we make.
We've been
decision
made
on
dogs
We were
up,
supposed
is
to be
what
already
happened.
halfway lined up.
We usually start in January, so here we are in March and we haven't met yet.
If you're gonna hold the carnival and you're gonna have a carnival committee, I'll be more than happy to spend time with the committee on the first 1 or 2 meetings to get you on the right foot.
That'd be great.
Oh, we would love that.
I want you to
Take
move
somebody
forward.
else, huh?
So let's try and move you forward.
If-
I'm not gonna write all your policy procedures, I'm gonna give you ideas.
So is what you're saying, Sandy, is that you want the Carnival Committee to come up with the policies and procedures, present them to the board so they
Right,
can be
because
approved?
you have been doing them, but we needed it, if we can have it in writing, we know that procedure's being followed, then you can say, hey, look, we followed the procedure that we
Okay,
have.
well, take our contracts that we have, review them and approve them. We already have contracts. It's not that hard.
So if we,
Yeah, we wanna review the contracts.
Review
Just
them, you
wait.
have them.
there's more policies and procedures though that we have to follow.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot more than
Let
just
me
the
throw some
contract.
dates around, get the Carnival Committee together. How about I reach out to you directly, okay? And then you can come, help us with this, and then I'll bring everything back to these guys, so these guys don't have to attend any of our meetings. I mean, you okay with that? I mean, then you're probably gonna charge me an arm and a leg to show up at my meeting.
I have a question about,
I'll do that, do it as a courtesy to move things forward for you guys.
I would appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, we would be very happy, very, very grateful.
So we can, if we get these together for the workshop, is that something you can review at the workshop then? So that's only, what, 2 weeks away? Is that possible?
Are you okay with that, having him come and go
Yeah,
over
I
that with
would,
that?
if he wants to come.
I have a question though, the ride vendor never provided proof of insurance listing us as additional insured for 5 years.
Stop beating
And
a
that's
dead
not-
horse. Let's move on.
Coke, that's not a dead, we have to have that.
Well,
I'm the owner of Tons of Fun,
Okay, so
and
we
being an
need-
outsider coming to the township meeting, it seems like it was a carnival bashing committee to me,
Do
you
you
know.
have proof of insurance?
I'm
Listing
a
us as
company,
additional
I'm a company, I'm using a company from Pennsylvania, totally controlled by the Department of Agriculture. I cannot set my rides up and go anywhere. They're the first ones to get a copy of my insurance. I have one from 17 here that's listed in the Carnival Township Parks and Rec with the address on. It was emailed to Paulie, his email's on there. And as of last year, I think, not last year, in 2018, my contract says emailed upon approval or upon renewal. So everybody's going paperless now, so they've been emailed to all my
Okay,
spouses.
so you're saying your certificate of insurance was sent to us?
It was probably emailed, I have 17s
Okay.
here. And if you want a hard copy, I can get a hard copy
As long
for
as
you,
we
but they're
need
emailed
an
now,
email
so they'll
out,
come
we
right
need
to
someone
you.
to bring it to the office. It has to get to our office.
So you're saying email it to Joan?
To
and
Joan?
Joan
Yeah, you can email to
You-
Joan, yes. We
Just
need
give me the
certificate of
correct
insurance.
email address and I'll make sure you get it for the last 2 years. I can go back to my insurance carrier and get the emails. I'm not doing anything illegal, and I think
No one
Paulie
accused you of doing
I think
anything
the
illegal,
Carnival
you just need the
Committee,
insurance.
I think the Carnival Committee has done an excellent job. When they first talked to me 5 years ago, me, my wife, and my son, they brought me to a barren land, and we made it, Paulie and his committee made it to what it is today. And I remember the conversation that Paulie had with me. He said, David, I gambled. I gambled with my company, okay? It was a big gamble for me. Paulie said, you know, David, just bring this stuff in. I don't care if it's successful or we make any money. I just want the people in the area and the kids have something to do. That's what he said. He did this out of the kindness of his heart.
Yes.
And when somebody does that and has the right intentions and does something from the kindness of their heart, it turns into a very successful event. And it has turned into a successful event because of Paulie, Shannon, and the Carnival Committee.
And we're
That's my
here
personal
to make
opinion.
sure that we have everything
Sure.
documented.
Right.
If we do get audit, we need everything in
I
file.
understand.
That's
And he's
all we
not a
want.
lawyer, and all I did was hear him bash my contract. And he's not a lawyer. He's an accountant. My sister's an accountant. You want a cheaper accountant to come in and help you with the Carnival? I can give
We're
you a
not
couple of
asking-
names.
I'm asking for procedures, contracts,
I
certificate of
understand.
insurance.
Everybody
Okay?
should have policy and procedures
And that's
and
what we want to
everything.
fix. We want to move forward, be positive.
But
we
don't
get everything in
don't
order.
bash that man. He's
I'm
done an
not
excellent job.
Okay, anyone else?
With 2 stars on the board, it seems to me like it's a conflict of interest there.
And Sandy, I just wanna make it known for the record, we had the Department of Agriculture come to the township window during that carnival, so please. There
Yeah,
were
because-
some issues with the Department of Agriculture, I have it in the file.
There wasn't an issue, that was a brand new ride that had to be set
There
up a
was
certain way.
an issue, it was running illegally. We have to get this right, so stop bashing.
There was a
the
verbal
please.
approval from the man from the department.
I have the letter,
Walter Remick, there was a verbal approval.
but they came twice.
The first 2 nights, they didn't even use the Ferris wheel until they got the
It was
verbal
very
approval.
uncomfortable for us in the township.
I was there too, I met with the inspector at the carnival grounds, I know
They
all
have
about
it,
it.
it's in writing, I have a letter. They-
So
Once
do I have the letter
once again,
too.
it's procedures,
Yeah.
everyone's gotta follow them, we need to have everything in order just to cover our asses.
It's scary for us in the office when we have that happen.
Sandy, I do have a question,
Yes.
related to the procedures.
Yes.
Just, if you're asking us to maybe just write up our pieces, like, does it need to be formal, like, or can we just write down, like, our tasks that we do and the things that we do, and then present it so that it can be edited and modified? Is that what we're
Yeah,
asking?
that's fine, that's a
okay.
start, and then we can get it printed out and we'll have it in a file, carnival procedures, and we have everything right there.
Okay.
So if someone says, oh, what's this, oh, well, here's the vendor's contracts, here's this contract, we have everything here.
So I just to finalize it, are we going to be permitted,
Yes.
if we get these done, are we going to be permitted to have the carnival this year?
Does anybody see why we can't, if we get everything
I
in
don't
place
know.
and
I mean, what
everything's-
about the contract rule where you're
Obviously,
engaging in
somebody
a
else wants the
contract?
carnival, because he's the only one that keeps speaking.
Well, the
When you're
contract does
engaging in
need,
a contract over $10,000, a municipality, do you have to bid that? I mean,
None of it's viewed as professional.
I'm sorry, 3 bids, but if it's over 20,000,
It's viewed as a professional service that would be exempt from that.
okay.
To allow you to assess skill and other things besides just the bottom line dollar that someone's gonna charge.
Here, I'll give you a copy of my COVID policy too, we're on top of that too. Okay. You can put that on file there. And you can pass that around if you want to, I have a couple other copies.
Yeah.
so it's not required to look for another vendor.
It's not required, no.
Okay, I thought you had to get 3 quotes.
You could do that if you'd like to do it, but it's not required.
Okay, then what do we do about the
Everything
contract that's
established,
signed
they're
for
gonna
3
look for
years and we
another
approve
vendor.
one?
Just yours.
The contract that was signed for 3 years, that he had up there that was
Yeah, if
we
there's a
approved
3-year
one.
contract, I'd like to see that, and then I can advise the board on how to proceed for your next meeting.
Look, it's 2021, we have the contract signed, we only lost $580. Why can't we just move on with this year as we're doing the procedures and get it right? Obviously, we're doing something
Not my
right,
contract.
right?
You don't have.
Why don't you quit trying to hamstring the carnival?
Contract,
You are trying to hamstring the carnival.
okay,
That's
all right,
not
so
true.
we'll get that.
Yes,
in
you
there.
will, yes, it is true.
All-
Everything
Okay.
that we do, you find fault with it.
That's not true.
Yes, you do. I can't tell you how many hours we pissed away worrying about the 10% for this guy and what rent are we gonna charge for that guy, just so that we could have it fair. And now you're wanting to kick tons of fun out, and you don't even wanna get involved in the damn carnival.
You just wanted to, you got
Okay.
a new
You're
vendor.
nuts.
We all heard you say you want a new vendor.
What do you mean you don't know what I'm talking
All right,
about?
sit-
You're wanting to kick him out.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, can you sit, have a seat?
Is there a copy machine in the township? I have a copy of the 3-year contract here, I can give it to your,
Joan
They have-
has it, she's gonna get it to solicitor.
actually, last year I didn't even work, you know what I mean? During this pandemic and everybody's lost their revenue and you just hire an accountant to come in, that's cool.
Yes?
In reference to this, we also are looking for a cash procedure for the T-shirt and the book sales.
Yep. and
So we
once
need to
again,
kind of do that at the same time.
I would think that you're gonna wanna draw up, you know, how many books did you order? 250, something like that, or how many?
300.
So 300, so say there's 10 people,
Number the books.
you know? well, not how many books.
I'm asking for you guys to proceed, a cash procedure for T-shirt sales
Well, yeah.
and the yearbook. I'm not in,
It's as simple as you
I'm
have
not
a
involved.
spreadsheet, so if you hand me 10 books and say, Sandy, here's 10 books. I better either hand you
What?
10 books back, or I better hand you the cash back.
Well, we chose our 250th Carnival, we were doing a yearbook and,
And everyone that gets 10 books or 15 books.
they've never started any procedures for anything, but it's our
They
fault.
sign off for it.
We're either going to come up with a pre-order.
Right.
Also.
But you have receipts,
separate.
and they get stapled to that tally sheet where you gave them 10 books, and they can sign off, but they got cash, they got check, put the check number, and you turn that sheet in and say, okay, Sandy took 10, she signed for 10, she signed 5 back in and gave you enough for
And
cash.
that's not gonna happen every day, because.
No, but when they
They're gonna
turn
wait
the
till
sheet
they-
in,
Yeah.
so at the end of the time, you'll have that turned in then.
So,
Well, pretty much the entire staff is here. Are we all in agreement that we can meet sometime next week, even the 250th, that we can come up with some of these policies, cash policies? Would next week sometime work for you?
Yeah.
So an email will go out and we'll come up with some sort of date that we can all get together.
Okay.
That way we can present something before we come to the workshop meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Is there any way that you could put a bullet point together for these guys? And
Well, it's
just-
already coming
just-
for free to,
No, well, or even John, somebody, email it to Paulie so that he can email it to all his people.
We got it right there.
Well, if I get a copy of
We
your
need a copy.
PowerPoint up
That's
there,
all I'm
that can be
saying.
gotten.
So you guys can go through it and see what exactly you need.
I just wanted to clear up the
I'll
one
get-
thing about what he was saying about the, pavilion not being rented and, 10% for that. We changed that, like, a week before the carnival, because Knights of Columbus couldn't afford to pay up front for the rental. So we changed that to accommodate them to be able to stay, so we wouldn't lose the bingo.
Correct.
Because that's a big community thing that everybody likes, a bingo. So if we didn't change that prior to the carnival 2 years ago, we would've lost the bingo at the carnival.
I mean,
but
you
you
you heard,
changed the
you heard
contract
Dave,
from being, they pay 150 or whatever to a percentage.
Yeah.
See, you would've been
That way they
probably
could
better
pay
off
nightly,
holding a
and so
check
they didn't have to
from
pay
them.
up front. That's why we did that.
And
I mean, but
And
you
we
heard
should have
Dave
the
out
right to
there.
be able to do that as a committee to keep our vendors in.
Dave out there even said, when I started this thing, it wasn't meant, this is not a fundraiser. Most amusement companies deal with fire companies to raise money for the fire company. We're not doing that. We're trying to make it affordable. I mean, what we've done is we've taken that carnival, you have rides on one side, and you have like a community event on the other side. Nonprofits are making money, businesses are getting their names out there. I mean, we accommodate everybody and try to make it affordable. $100 for a tent space for 5 days, figure it out, that's not much, it's peanuts.
It's not,
But we do that to cover trash, whatever, 'cause I mean, there's a lot involved in that.
but we can't change contracts.
But all I'm saying is that we did accommodate, I mean, my nonprofits, I have 3 church organizations. I mean, we got St. Benedict's, we got Morgantown Community Church, we got, Action Impact. I mean, do I keep going? Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, I got 3 fire companies I deal with, 2 ambulance
Right, we know all that.
associations.
We're
I mean,
talking
all
about
these, I
procedures and
accommodate
contracts.
everybody, because I don't wanna take away from their money.
Right. When they have contracts, you gotta stick with contracts. If they didn't have the money right then, I could see, yeah, if you say, oh, well, pay us at the end.
Well, that's why we
fine.
changed the contract and we signed them a new contract.
Sometimes you have to make the contract fit the people that's coming.
But the contracts, we need approval for. Do we not need approval for, we need approval ahead of time, if we're gonna do it right. I mean, you guys want us to do stuff a certain way, but only when it suits you guys then.
I don't even
I
say
mean-
that, because this has been going on for 6 years, now all of a sudden
And
it's an
that's where
issue.
we're here right now, trying to fix it.
I understand that, but that kinda hurts me, because you know what? I stick my neck out for every one of my vendors and every one of my businesses, you know what I mean?
So,
It's like,
what we
but
have
for
here-
6 years, it was never an issue.
It was
Now all of a
always
sudden,
an issue.
it's an issue because of you.
All right,
Because
that's
of you.
All right, I'm done with this, okay? So
We just
any
clear
other
one thing
questions?
up with it,
Any
that-
other questions?
While the whole committee's here, let's just clear one thing up with the board so they know before we agree to move on with this carnival. We are not doing this to make a revenue to upgrade the township parks. We go out and get donations from local businesses to help us upgrade the township parks for the township. But this carnival, the money we're making is to generate it to make it bigger and better. We're not here to make money to build on to that township park. So we wanna clear that up with the board now.
Oh, that's-
Because Alan
We'll have
obviously
to
thinks we're doing it the
discuss,
other
I
way.
mean, the money that comes into the township, we always try to put back out for the people. But I mean, you can't say, oh, this money is right here. I mean, it's the carnival, it's the township money.
it's Park and Rec money now.
Well,
It's the township money.
It's Park and
township
Rec.
money.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
under Park and Rec now. Which goes
and
under right.
especially if it goes under the general fund, it's definitely gonna be,
It's supposed to go,
township
it's supposed to go
money.
underneath Park and Rec now.
but
That's what they're saying.
Park and Rec doesn't have a separate.
Yeah, but that's where they're supposed to be putting it. That's what they said the last meeting. And we'd like to make sure that the money is paid for them, that you're paying out a carnival. the township
From
reimburses.
the beginning, this started with,
All right,
no
so-
township money, we brought in donations and started this to get it to where it's at.
Anything new, Cole?
So that's where it's going.
Okay. Anything else?
I just have one other thing, just to clarify, maybe even get it on the record or something. The mega bands, the mega passes, the pre-sale, they are numbered.
Okay.
It is documented, and when a customer comes in and hands that ticket in for the band is also numbered.
Okay.
And that's what Dave and I go through every night.
And those
to-
are on sheets and you have records.
Exactly,
Yeah,
so
and
they are
that's what-
accounted for,
all
anything that
needs to be
is,
kept
yeah.
in records here, so when this comes up, when they go through audits and they choose to audit this, it's there. They have everything,
Absolutely.
okay? All right, anything else?
My whole concern all along was just having the contracts here, having the records
And
here.
that's what we're gonna have.
Yes, and having the board review the contract before it's voted
And we'll
on.
do that.
And having the possibility of looking for a different ride vendor that maybe compensates the township differently. But
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, all right. So, next, we have our insurance company. They have questions for special events, and they need some information filled in. So Joan, is this something we just need to fill out each time before the event, or what?
Pretty much when we renew our insurance, they're gonna require this,
Okay, so,
yeah. So, speaking of the numbers earlier, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if you can estimate the crowd attendance, but that's part of this.
We
There are
can take a
some-
look at it when we meet.
okay, so you have a copy, so, all right, and then there was one more. Let's see. Okay, and the reason, okay, the certificates are so important is because the following exclusions are contained on our insurance: amusement devices, fireworks, liquor liability, and racing. So that's why we must have a certificate on file. All right. We have Twin Valley Soccer Club annual agreement. We have someone here from the Twin Valley Soccer Club?
We're gonna meet with them the next Park and Rec meeting. They weren't able to make our
Yeah,
meeting we had.
President said he was gonna be here, so.
Okay, so you didn't show, all right. Did anyone have any questions on the soccer club? I mean,
You know, that, well, their contract's been working for all these years.
right,
I
it's
don't
been
have a problem
working,
with it.
Keith, I don't see that we're gonna have any changes on it. Did you guys review it?
We just want to get on the same page with them. We should be touching base with them every year to make sure we're on the same page.
He called, he wants to get that signed, so,
I didn't think we saw any issues with that one. That one was fine, I
yeah,
thought.
okay, so we wanna get that one signed. So, did he say he wanted to come in and get it signed, or?
He said he wanted to be here tonight because he wanted to express how much work they put into the fields. I guess he was thinking maybe something was gonna change and he really didn't want it to.
Okay, so
Well,
we
we
can advise
still
him there's
want
nothing
him
that's
at Park and
gonna
Rec.
change.
We need to have a face-to-face with them yearly. We should be really, I mean, he never indicated to me that it was, it needed to be signed immediately when I talked to him.
When are these supposed to be signed?
It's usually by now. I mean,
But, okay, all right, so we just have to make sure that each year we get them in February started.
And we want yearly to review them at Park and Rec, so that we know what they plan for their future, if there's any needs that are gonna be upcoming that we'd be aware of.
Right, this was on Parks and Rec November meeting agenda. They
Okay.
hadn't had a meeting since
Okay,
then, so.
then we have the MAA annual agreement.
Has Park and Rec talked to MAA at all?
Yes.
We did, I did send to Joan some proposed changes. We've reviewed most of those with MAA, not verbatim, but we gave them the gist of what we wanted to change. They had agreed to that, but they do have to look at the contract to make sure that everything that we included, they're in agreement with, but we wanted to come to the board first to find out if you would agree to it before we would pass it to them.
Well, I see on here the tenant maintenance of the fields, including mowing and trimming. I think our road crew wants to maintain that. The maintenance.
They do want to maintain that?
You guys want to mow it now? Or before they didn't want to?
How, haven't you been mowing it?
You've been mowing it.
You've been mowing it.
I-
We thought you didn't want to mow.
We've been mowing it, and if their field looks any,
The township's gonna continue to maintain that field, because I'm not letting it look like the other one.
Okay.
End of story. It just can't let it look like that.
For the baseball guy, again, the guy from the baseball team,
They want to take
he said
responsibility to make sure
he
it's ready
seems,
for
he
games.
seems responsible, and they said that they would maintain that.
And now it's gonna be in their contract, that if they don't maintain it, then they have to fine because
We
it's
left in there that the quality
It's
of.
just the infield, that's it. Just the infield, just their playing field.
I have to go back over all the stuff that you've changed in that, because I didn't.
That's all we changed was the infield mowing.
But we also put in there that they were gonna take responsibility, help us with responsibility for the buildings.
Yeah, well, that was,
So is
Well, that's
MAA
always been in
having
the contract, hasn't it?
signings? I mean, are they active?
Yeah,
Are they,
the
okay.
sign-ups are going on now.
we wanted to put something on them because most organizations have to rent fields. And all these organizations get free fields and we're the ones paying for the maintenance of everything. So the least they can do is make sure their field's ready, because he was talking about calling on a Thursday to make sure the field was mowed for Friday games and that. I said, no, we ain't putting out them guys, there's only 3 of them guys. So they said they would take the responsibility for the infield, and then we can let it at that.
So the contract between MAA and Twin Valley Legion Baseball,
Yeah.
They're both on it.
were they at the meeting?
Yes.
Both of them were.
I think Twin
Jay
Valley
and Kim were both
uses our field
Yes,
more than,
exactly right.
So,
Having Twin Valley Legion be a part of this organization every year, I think is gonna be a good thing.
They're gonna merge, she said that they were gonna merge as well at some point.
They've already
Into one.
painted the building, they tightened up some of the bleachers, they're starting to do more projects, but last year they didn't finish because of COVID. But they have a whole list of stuff that they're gonna maintain, as in painting the dugouts and that type of stuff that they're doing on their own dollar.
The other thing they did mention, there were 2 issues still remaining over at the field, and one was that sinkhole that's by the dugout at the 3rd base line. It's, I guess it's sunk again, right there on the
Yeah, we brought
corner.
that to the township
Corner of
last
the
year.
dugout. And then there's water coming into the snack bar through where the electrical line comes into the building. There's water running down that line when it rains into the building.
yeah.
I mean, as for that sinkhole, didn't they just grade that?
No, this is out this is out the dugout, outside the fence. We brought it to the attention last year.
It's right by-
The cinder blocks are showing from where they backfilled the old one when they tore it down, they buried everything.
they're on the line.
Okay, so then that also brings up the bathrooms, which still have mold in, so they're not gonna be able to be used.
We already talked to them about not using it, they said
Okay,
there's
they'll
one
bring
bathroom
porta potties
they
in?
used last year.
They said there was one potty that was usable. So I put in there that we would provide only one pot. So
They're not gonna provide their own porta potties?
we didn't ask them to. We can certainly change that in the contract and ask them
I mean, I
to.
would think we'd want them to provide it for their events. Wouldn't you think? I mean.
It was already in the contract that we would provide 2 bathrooms.
Well, I think
From
we
last
can
year.
kind of fall underneath COVID regulations there and make it that they have to get porta potties, because we don't have the manpower to go over and sanitize the bathrooms. I think that's a lot of the reason we closed them off last year.
I certainly put it, we can certainly change that.
We did bring that to his attention that they should get their own, and we just left it at what the contract said. It wasn't one of the bathrooms still good, just one was bad?
Yeah,
So they both,
that's what they
They're
said.
both,
they're both bad.
they're both.
Well, that's, I pretty much told them that, I thought both of them were bad with that estimate that you gave us.
They had said they only ever opened up one the last couple of years.
And then the MAA is still in charge of scheduling, is that how that works for them?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, do they sublease anything and make a profit off the subleasing?
They
No,
haven't.
they haven't,
All the
okay.
time.
No,
They
they're
just-
combining, they're actually
Okay.
combining their bank accounts and everything into one organization, is what they told us.
Okay,
They have
yeah, I just
porta-
don't want, I don't think it's right that we would let someone sublease it when we're donating this for the community to use and letting them do the scheduling and work with others, but they shouldn't be making money off of subleasing our,
They have
Property.
tournaments where they charge a fee. They charge an entry fee for the tournaments.
why don't, I mean, entry fees or whatever.
The only
but-
tournaments they seem to have is the end of the year tournaments for their league.
So where do you want to put these
Well,
porta potties over there?
Didn't he mention he had a couple of, he had a
Now,
couple of
Legion might be
tournaments?
doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Legion, yeah, Legion.
There'll only be one.
It is Legion.
Probably too.
But in there, it says that tournaments have to be approved by the board. I provided a red line document what the old one looked like, and then red lines of what the changes were, and then I provided a clean copy. Just so that you can see exactly what we changed from last year to this year.
Okay,
So MAA hasn't seen this new contract yet?
They haven't seen the written part of it. We talked them
But they were
through
good
what
with
changes
most
we
of
were
it?
gonna make. Excuse me?
Whether they were good with it?
They were good with everything that we discussed. I mean, there might be one or two things in there that they,
and who did you say wanted to do the mowing?
the Legion said they would take care of it.
And what's his name? Or who's
Jay,
in charge?
right?
Jay Oliver.
Yeah, Jay. You said to do the mowing and the trimming.
Okay, I think we'll need to review this more before we can even.
Yeah, Keith, you get a copy of this and look at
Yeah,
it too.
Keith has a copy.
You do not need me to review this, right? In prior years. you
Not
did
till we get done, I mean,
This one was definitely written by a different person than wrote the one for, the soccer field. The soccer field one is very legalese, so probably came out of Eric's group maybe. This one looks like it was homegrown.
yeah, and it's because it had so many different leagues and stuff going under the MAA and being able to use it and schedule through
I mean, I
that.
stole some verbiage from the other one, but I didn't change the whole thing to make it look just like the soccer's, although, like I said, the soccer team one is covers you very, very well.
Okay, so I think we want to review this a little better before we move forward.
You might wanna make it legalese.
Can't wait too long, because
Right, I know.
they'll
but
start at the end of
We
April.
just got this today, I guess. Okay, 2021 street work.
Our office met with Keith to go over the proposals that we have before the different streets to try to narrow it down to meet the budget for this year. We came up with some maintenance work and construction work. The maintenance work was hinging from previous work that was done, try to prevent that from going to waste. And the construction work, the Thousand Oaks Boulevard and the bridge, we met up on site there with a bridge person that our office uses. They did feel if we made the paving improvements to the bridge surface that we talked about, that would probably get at least 3 to 5 years more out of the bridge, so it's not, the bridge would, then we get the inspection report this fall and would have a better understanding where that stands. He did note there's gonna need to be some work done on that bridge, whether it's replacement or however you wanna proceed. But he thought making the paving improvements that we're estimating around 50,000 would probably get you another 3 to 5 years life on the bridge.
Unless we get a report back saying, so
Right. You know,
can we do a car or truck count, car count on that road and consider just shutting it down so we can fix the bridge? Instead of throwing $50,000 into it?
that would be an
I
option
mean-
to see how much it's used. I don't know.
I don't ever see any cars or trucks come out that way. But, no, I said I don't, but I mean, we should get a count. I mean,
And that
do you
bridge
want to
was
throw
never really,
50,000 in to, that inspection is
No.
supposed to be done in the next 12 months?
that bridge was never really designed from the beginning to have trucks all day running back and forth across it.
Right.
Like they do. And they have been going, I travel that way a lot, and they've been going in and out that way a lot.
And that's a tough way to pull out.
It's not a good spot for a truck
No.
to pull in or out. There's a much better entrance down on Morgan Way.
Right.
Don't we have that thing we put on the pole where we can do counts?
Matt, is there any way to do a car count down there?
Can we put that in, maybe out on that side, right of the bridge?
It also has that
Hmm?
new thing that we have now, the mount.
Because we own it, right, so it won't cost us anything, just put it out there, let's do it,
Yeah.
I agree. Find out how, I say we keep using it until the state says we can't use it.
Jay was trying to talk to you guys. He can barely hear you guys, and he had a comment, but nobody heard him talking. So you may want to figure out a better way. People have a hard time hearing on Zoom.
Okay, cool. Is that it?
As far as the list there, I think Keith and I discussed too about the option of leaving a couple of these items as an alternate. If you wanted to potentially put this out to bid sooner without waiting, depending on the traffic counts, or to get that, we could list that work as an alternate, that could be removed, and we were gonna
That'd
maybe.
probably be the best thing, listen as an alternate, just in case we decide we do need it open.
I would like to do that. I think we should get this out to bid as soon as possible so we can get on the books, because, road work's gonna fill up quick throughout the state, so.
Like right now, all in one day.
Somebody want to make a motion to
I'll make
put
a
that as an
motion.
alternate then, the bridge?
I'll second.
I'll make a motion to accept, how do you wanna do this, 2021 street work?
Placing the bridge deck on Thousand Oaks as an alternate, if need be. Jeff, did you second it, or?
I did second
Okay,
that.
we have a motion and a second, all those in favor? Aye.
So you'll take care of getting the bids out?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're generally figuring we should be able to get it out by, like, the end of this month, first week of April. If we would like to try to maybe get it so we could open before the workshop meeting in April, but we're not sure if we can make that, but we'll try to meet that deadline.
Get it out as soon as possible, because we also like to put in there, like we have in the past, that we like to try to wrap up a lot of this road work before school starts.
Okay.
That was one of the stipulations we had because of the buses.
Okay.
Do we wanna jump to him because Gary's here?
Love to see that.
Because I'm sure he'll have to have some questions on that.
Okay,
The mayor.
the Twin Valley Pipeline Mariner grant letter. Hey Gary, you got a question?
I've got on your agenda, huh?
Are you sure?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, we done with the street work?
Yeah.
So by Winco, LDP,
These are the follow-up documents from the approval that you gave to the Winco to expand. And so before you, in your stack of stuff, you have a development agreement. That's your form agreement. The developer requested no changes to what you typically require. Same with financial security agreement. Joan, did they submit a letter of credit with the agreement?
Not yet, he's supposed to come tomorrow,
Okay.
bring the plans to.
Third agreement is the sidewalk deferral agreement in your standard form. And the fourth agreement is the stormwater management agreement, declaration of easement in your standard form. So these will all be ready for approval by the board. You can do it collectively, but the motion should be subject to the developer bringing in the letter of credit. That's really the only outstanding item. For the record, if you want to know how much they're required to secure, it's $474,697.
474,697. Anybody want to make a motion?
Now, you looking for individual?
You can do it collectively or individually.
What's the location are they building? What's the address, like, in relative where they are now?
It is.
Right across the street.
I know, it's right across the street.
Okay.
It is right across the street from their meeting.
Okay, just people, when I see this, they probably don't know where that's at, so I wanted
Lot 34
clarification.
and 35, but they don't have a street address yet, I
That is, yeah, it's
Hemlock.
Hemlock Road in the industrial park.
I'll make the motion, and we're waiting
Upon receipt of.
Letter of credit.
guess. There's a letter of credit.
I'll second that.
Have a motion, anyone have a question? Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Apartments on Main, formerly Morgantown Apartments, extension letter.
Is that the 77 units? Okay.
They were requesting a time extension, I believe, I don't remember the specific date, but right around today's date was when their time ran out. They had not went through the planning commission to get a formal recommendation. The plans they've submitted are in order as far as the township's requirements. They're gonna plan to be, I believe the 16th is the date for the planning commission, they were gonna attend that meeting, and then would intend to be getting their formal approval at the following supervisor's meeting. I believe they requested 90-day time.
Sure. So it'd be my recommendation that you memorialize the extension of 90 days in your meeting minutes by making a motion to accept the 90 days or acknowledge the 90 days.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the 90-day extension.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
And that's pending meeting with the planning commission.
Yes.
Cooper Zimmerman annexation.
Everything on that plan was okay, we were just waiting for the plans to be formally submitted for signatures.
Yes, you have a decision in front of you that's proposed in terms of scope of development for Zimmerman. This is a very minor subdivision or annexation between 162 and 177 Swamp Road. Do you know if developer's representative is here or on Zoom?
Isn't he just looking for a chunk at the end of the driveway?
Yeah.
Just
Yes,
a-
I don't think it's a measurable piece of property.
0.29 acres or 0.04 acre?
Yeah, it's very
0.04 acre.
Right, okay.
So you have your standard decision. The only real condition is that they reimburse the township for their review fees associated with this project, and then record the plan within 90 days unless you need to extend it further. So it's very, very simple approval that's in front of you tonight. And I don't want to overlook if the applicant's engineer or surveyor is online, if he needs to say anything.
No, I have nothing to offer at this time unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Keith, you see anything wrong?
I'll make a motion to accept the Hoover Zimmerman annexation approval. Second.
Have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Spring Valley Pipeline Mariner grant letter.
Okay, I received your letter on the 3rd of March, and I worked a little bit with Scott, so I'm here representing the board. We have a meeting coming up on Monday, so I want to get some more information as to, I understand the request, but we're not sure what the district's responsibility is as part of this plan, and whether the district has to do anything as part of this plan. We understand the stormwater issues that are in that area. I believe, if I remember right, when Scott was working on this, there was something to do with in the basins. That's a little bit of a concern to us because those basins, I believe, Keith, right. I think those basins, they mow them every time they mow the school property, so they're in pretty good shape from a stability standpoint. And if we could forego, that work could not be included and the monies could be applied to whatever you want to do with the pipe, that might be beneficial to the district because, you know, Paula, you know, that with a good stable bottom, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna excavate the soil. They're talking 3,000 pounds. That's what, a little small little single axle dump truck maybe. So we're gonna disturb all that and then put whatever it is, amended soils and plants. And I drive that road every day and I've seen the water that comes out of those basins and it's clear. It's not silt laden water. So if the concern as part of this grant is pollution at the point of discharge, I think any work in the basin would aggravate that and actually create some. So with that said, we're not sure what the scope is. So we don't understand what's supposed to be done on our property and if it can be waived so that all the work can be done. I think piping is the concern, right, Keith?
We need to take it down the road, that's what we need to do. I mean, I know Scott started all this, I think, I never really saw an official plan, but I think their planning was to put plantings in there to slow the water down before it exits, is that correct?
Yeah, it would be sort of.
That doesn't work, so.
Well, you and I both know that, but I don't know how the grant is set up, that we have to do certain
The
things.
grant, you had to show sediment removal by putting and we don't have like anything of great detail, we say like make a wet basin where we put some like wetland type vegetation in there and plants around to help with the sediment removal per the requirements. That's more to be able to get the grant in the first place.
Well, you hear what he just said,
Right.
he's willing to write off on that, if we can work something to make it work, that we can do what we need to do to correct the water problem. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody.
The district, I think the position of the district is, we wanna help do what we can do to make this, to make this work. We just think that maybe some of the things that you're talking about in the basins may be unnecessary and really unwanted.
Allow
But
it
the
to stay
grant-
established.
Well, I don't know what the grant says.
The way the grant was written, it included the work in the basins and the piping down the street. When the grant was received and they took all the stuff about the pipe work down the street out and left it for the basin portion of the work.
But we're still gonna have that was the issue that we think we all had, that really, the reason we went for the grant was have a lot of water rolling down alongside the road, and we wanted to try to confine that underground by piping it, so by them cutting the grant in half almost, it takes that away that we can't do that. So, we agree, I think, for the most part, that the basin, you could do stuff to the basin, but I don't think it's gonna correct the water going down the side of the road.
Right, I
It's
mean,
gonna make it worse.
I was gonna say that.
You're right.
thought-
You drive it every day too.
It does say that you probably let a little bit go into the ground and it might slow it down a little, which might decrease your volume some. We don't expect it to be much of anything.
Have you seen the impervious soil out there?
Yeah, you can do that with a restrictor plate
I
too.
mean, I can reach out to.
Can you see what you can come
about
up
the
with,
grant,
just
see
kinda
if
go
they
that
can
route?
maybe change it. I'm assuming they won't, but I can at least reach out and see if that's an option and go from there.
So what if the school agrees and we agree as a township and the school, that the best way to handle that sediment coming from that pond is to do the work from the pond out?
There's no sediment coming from that
There is no
pond.
sediment.
Have you ever seen any muddy water coming out of there?
No.
Yeah, it's
just
because
massive
that,
quantities.
that's got good vegetation on the bottom. It would be a shame
Yeah,
to
if
go
you
in there
disturb
and
that, you're gonna
disturb
make
that.
more of a mess.
I guess what I'd like to take back to the board is, I know what your ask is, but if we don't have to do anything in our basins, I think that would really help us make a decision to help participate in the shortfall that.
So what we have to do is find out if that's off the books, they won't give us a grant
But
probably.
there's a new
and let them
administrator
know
in
that,
that
you know,
department now, so
the
that
basin
might-
is
that
in
might
per
help.
plan. Maybe we could do the bare minimum to the basin and spend the majority of the money on the pipe work.
I believe is the review process for this grant. They removed the pipe
Yeah.
and left the stuff at the school because that was the biggest bang, the education center, the wetland areas that they were
source.
gonna, they left that part, they took our pipe work out, so now you can reiterate that with them, but I think they're the ones that removed it, the granters are the ones that removed it.
Right, they removed it from their end, the removal of the sediment, which I know you're saying it's not there, but from the grant writing perspective and getting the approval, they look at the changes to the pond would reduce sediment going downstream. So that's why from their opinion, the pipe doesn't contribute to that, and that's why they took it out, is my understanding. But I can reach out again and
I
see
think that's all we can
if
ask,
we
is
can
to see what you can
get
come
them
up
to
with.
do anything.
What's your window time-wise on this? Those grants aren't
The project's
open-ended.
gonna be finished this year if it goes in, so it would have to get.
Finish this
Or we
calendar
lose the
year?
grant.
This calendar year, yeah. When's the next school board meeting?
Monday night.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
Busy?
I'll try to hope I can get something, if I can even get a response
Just-
that,
yeah,
no, you can't change it, I
you
can at least
email
let you
them.
know that, and I'll see what I can find out, if there is any way we can redo that and go from
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I mean, we understand, the real issue is piping down the road. All the other stuff is nonsense, having an education center and putting plants in there, disturbing the basin, that's gonna make it worse. I do have one more quick thing, if I can, while I have the floor, if that's okay? Somebody sent this to me, and it's from a member of this board, that was posted on Facebook, and, you know, I'm a member of the development team for the airport, so I kind of take exception to this. The proposed airport property developer claims they are willing to work with the township. I've never felt as much pressure from a proposed project developer as what I have had from this one. We need to take our time and not rush things through to please a few people. My question to all of you is, I think we followed the procedures pretty well, and I don't know of anybody in our development team that's been putting pressure individually on anybody on this board. So, I just think it's unfair for a member of this board to post something like that on Facebook when it's not true. And I think our track record with working with this township in the past 20 years is a pretty good one.
Oh, really? Penwood is a good one?
You know what, Alan?
And I
Okay, tell me about what it is, because I know you're the one that posted this, and I don't want to get into
I'll
it, but you
take credit
started
for
it.
Because I'm on the planning and on this board. You came to me and Paul before you came to the board. I told you go to planning.
And we
okay?
did.
Then you came to this board first. I told you again, and the board said go to planning.
And we
You
did.
finally went to planning. All along though, you get more and more people from the community to start coming to the meetings, supporting your airport development. The planning commission never got to the point of changing the zoning down there. We discussed the possibility of allowing some residential in the IOP district, but it has never been allowed residential in the last 30 years. But somewhere along the line, you guys or somebody got the idea that allowing some residential means, okay, a huge residential development there. But now we're getting pressure to allow
But
high
I don't want to
density
argue this
residential
long, this
in
has
there.
been a long meeting, you got a lot on your agenda. My question is, has anybody in our development team pressured anybody on this board, other than follow the procedures that you just identified?
You kept coming to me when I'm saying, go to planning, and then it's just, I thought you were done with planning, when planning basically told you, well, we were looking for maybe age restricted, we were
No,
possibly
the
thinking
planning
about
commission
work, live.
unanimously recommended
Is the
us
video working?
to develop an
video
overlay
working? People
ordinance
can't
for
see.
review.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after you came back the second time. The first time you were there were a bunch of people from the
Because we were
public.
invited back by the planning commission.
I didn't invite you back to the planning
I
commission.
just,
Who
you know,
invited you back? Because the public was where he came the first time, they must have seen it on the agenda. There were a lot of people concerned that they didn't want that huge development in that part of town that don't have the roadways to have access to it. It'll create congestion all through town. But anyway, so they had complaints or concerns. And then you guys left after basically giving up, I thought. You came back at the next month's meeting when no one expected you and convinced the planning commission to give you, okay, what was it called? Permission to get the supervisors to, provide an overlay district or, plans to Eric and, Great Valley. But the problem was, you said it was such a small step. Our planning meeting, after we approved, said go ahead, work with these guys. We recommend the supervisors, authorize you to work with Eric and Great Valley. You guys were out there celebrating so loud in the hallway, it almost interrupted our meeting. And it's like,
that's
wow.
an exaggeration.
All right, so.
Okay, but anyway.
The bottom line is, I don't appreciate, we don't bash you on on social media. We would appreciate the same concern.
I didn't say the pressure was coming from you. It's coming from other people.
But it reflects on us. We want to play by your rules, and if we lose by your rules, we lose by your rules. But don't try and twist things around on social media on us.
I never said it was from you, okay? But here's the thing. This planning board or this supervisory board was never here for any of these residential big developments. But I can tell you right now, there's concerns with like every one of them. And I do know the people that were on this board when those were built, and I find it hard to believe that they willingly allowed those things to happen. Somehow, they were put in positions where things were built with narrow roadways, no parking, off-street parking and stuff that they normally wouldn't have wanted to have in development. You know what I mean? I mean, small.
I'm finished, I'm not gonna.
All right. Michelle.
Okay, just a note, putting something on social media that might influence people's decisions on the board is actually a violation of the sunshine law, so you know.
What are you talking about?
If you're talking about something that if you post something on social media that might influence people's decision-making on social media, it's a violation of the sunshine law, and you could get a fine for that.
Okay, anyone else?
Well, for the record, I knew nothing about that, and I know I didn't bash Gary, and I know when Gary approached both Alan and I, he just wanted to meet with us to feel us out to see if it was even worthwhile pursuing. That's what that first meeting was about. So if you sit there and say pressure, I don't see that.
I never said Gary pressured me.
Okay, anyone
Can I say
else?
something? Yeah.
Yes.
I feel pressure, and I'm not even up there. I feel pressure from this man. And I agree with Alan. I don't want that down there. And I thought he was just coming to make a proposal. He's been at every meeting since he proposed it. And why is he here tonight?
He's here regarding.
To
the-
talk,
for
to
the
talk
school.
about the.
For the school.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Anything else? Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. PennDOT 3-year mowing contract for approval. Keith, you've been through the contract, everything looks good for the mowing contract?
Yeah, that's the state, that's the same as what.
Okay, same as always. Anyone just want to make a motion? Oh, I'll go back to it. Anybody
I'll
want to
make
make
a
a motion?
motion for PennDOT for your mowing contract.
I'll second.
Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Police Department Mutual Aid Agreement update. Any update?
I don't have anything.
No, okay. Morgantown entrance signs quotes. So we have quotes here. And it looks like we have a recommendation to go with, Clever Designs. So we had 4 signs at $13.98, Cleverly at $6.25, and Eckerd at $4.65. And I think the recommendation was due to, just because Cleverly is a local
I'll make that
sign.
motion. Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Tetra Tech notice, landfill gas to energy plans. So it looks like they just have to notify us when they're doing work, or?
The administrative code requires that if you are concerned about what they're proposing, which is to add an additional landfill gas to energy engine, then you may have a right to appeal or challenge. That's why you're getting this notice. I could look into that if you had severe concerns
I mean,
about it, but I've not done that yet.
Okay, I mean, does anyone have a concern about them putting another engine down at the station there? I mean, they need it to run, I guess, to push that gas out. And it's more of a courtesy letter too, I mean,
Yeah, a gentleman called me today and said he needs an acknowledgement from the board, an official.
that we acknowledge we received the letter, basically, not an approval.
I mean, this is just for the gas, because I don't know,
Yeah.
every time I run 176, I smell that landfill more than ever.
They need to
Well,
pump
no,
it
that's
out.
not for, I don't think, the burners.
Well,
in the landfill.
I'm just seeing air quality program here, so that's why I'm sitting there
This is
thinking.
for another engine down at the plant, the 960 Shiloh Road. Is that, and that's for the plant that sits down in.
But
That
that
is-
is like
that
the
is
gas
part of
from
the
the
gas
landfill.
I think they're pumping it out.
They're pumping that
gas
out.
pipeline
Yeah.
Right.
to, into.
New Holland.
Yeah, but what you're
Yeah.
smelling when you go by is the stuff they're burning off, they have
Yes.
this in the
Well, it's
landfill they're
the
burning
it's
off.
the landfill itself, I think that's.
Right, it's the landfill itself, and
It's
then they
methane
burn
gas
this
is
off.
what you smell. Smells like rotten eggs.
But I think the way this reads, this is more for an engine for the pumping station to pump it out.
Well, we don't need to make a
So,
motion.
no, we just need to acknowledge the letter, unless you have a question when
Yeah,
you're
no,
going to check on
everybody's
it.
okay with an acknowledgement, that's not an official action. You don't need
Anybody
to-
want to make an Jeff?
Acknowledge that we
Jeff?
received the letter.
We have 2 acknowledgements, all those in
Yeah,
favor?
yes, it's things.
Aye.
So there was a motion and.
Motion, second, and we all acknowledge. Yes, Michelle?
Do you think maybe we can ask Brian, the general manager of the landfill, to come in here sometime? Because I know there's repeated people complaining about the smell, and I talk to him pretty regularly myself. Might be good so that we're communicating, that you guys are acknowledging that they're there and that people have had notices of the smell. It just might be good for you guys to have them at one of your meetings.
That would be good PR for them to come here
Yeah.
and talk to us about that.
Yeah, good, and be nice to see you're doing community service. We have had people having complaints about the smell. It just might be a good team building thing for you guys.
They actually used to come.
Yeah, Lee.
They should actually reach out to come here maybe twice a year to just discuss that subject.
Yeah,
Or
and
maybe ongoing. They bought
And
more
you can
land,
ask
they're gonna
too.
do new cells or-
Two-way street, you can ask as well.
We can send a letter out.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it'd be good showing that you're acknowledging there's a concern in the community, and,
But
just
they
up in
have been
this.
good about the complaints. I mean, they always answer when I've called and
Yeah.
stuff, and
People
they've always
don't,
ramped it up.
yeah.
It doesn't go in their report that you called. It does not go in their
They used to
monthly
have
report.
reports that showed
Yes,
calls.
and it never shows, it says 0 calls. If it's not found to be a bad smell, they're not gonna put it in, and by the time they get to your place, they're not gonna smell it. I've been through this
And that's
for
right, they've been
25
out.
years.
That's what I'm saying, just get on the same
5 years I've been
page.
dealing with this.
Yeah, just good to get on the same page.
Well, I mean, I'd be okay with inviting them just to keep up our community relations, you know what I mean, and then we can discuss that.
And,
No. Really no.
Okay, so everyone's okay with sending an invitation out, I asked if they tell me, just give an update. And- All right, administrators report.
Okay, so we have our audit, the 2020 audit will take place this Thursday, so, they'll be here in the office probably for a day or two.
All right. Carnival and anniversary update.
Per our earlier discussion, we should have something by the first meeting.
And we had the book approved, anniversary book printing approval. So do we need to make another
We
motion?
established the price and I
Okay.
think there's a contract payment to publisher, right? Yeah. I would do
Okay,
that.
so,
So what is the price to the publisher? Do we know that?
well, we,
$20 a book.
well, no, we wanna know what our purchase price is, what we need
Yeah.
to take the check out, cut a check for. Do we know that?
Not down to the penny.
Just
It's
an
gonna be
estimate.
around, well, 200 books, about $4,000.
So not to exceed $4,100,
Do you remember the price, John?
I
I
want
thought
to
it was
be more than
4,500.
that.
Yeah.
I thought 4,500 rang a bell in my mind, but.
How many books was it?
It's gonna be 200.
Times how many bucks a book?
200. $20 times 200.
Oh, 4,000.
Yeah. It's pretty easy, man.
So not to exceed 4,500?
Yes.
Okay, so. And the price for the book is, the purchase one,
The purchase one is gonna be $25.
25. So we need to make a motion to pay, to
For the printing approval and to pay for
printing
it.
approval, not to exceed $4,500, I'll make that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second?
And then we need, oh, sorry.
Well, if you want to talk about the cash approval, I think we're going to include that when we have our meeting. We'll come up with some sort of policy when it comes to that, if you're okay with
Well, I
that.
think, do we have to approve the $25 per book? Does that have to be official?
I think you should approve it, so you know what the cost is gonna be.
Okay,
The
so
motion
then-
should say Mass Publishing, that's what it's going to.
The $4,500
Yeah.
for mass off printing.
It's 4,000 even.
Yeah, we did.
We
did
did
it.
it.
We did it.
We
We
did
did
it.
it.
We like, just in case.
You want a
Yeah,
separate
in case you have
motion for
sales
the
tax.
25? I'll make that.
Okay, and I'll second the second motion for the $25 per book purchase.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who made that motion?
Yeah. Now, it's probably gonna be beginning of June until we get these books. He gave us a pretty good deal. We weren't even gonna get approved because it was extra. He's proofing it, he lowered the price from $29 a book to $20.
All right. Maintenance department. Anything?
Yes, the street sweeper is scheduled for the week of April the 5th. don't get too excited, it will be arriving sometime over the April the 5th, it won't be here to start at 6 a.m. And then we have it for a month, so I ordered another 100 no parking signs, so that would be, so we'll be able to post more areas.
And we're doing it ourselves, correct? So we can post it and stick to it and not be someone else doing it and.
Correct, we're doing it ourselves.
And we already approved the price of that.
Right.
Yeah, so we approved the rental, I'm just letting you know that we are set up for that first week in April.
I just asked to communicate with her when you definitely get it, so we can get it up on the website and make sure everybody's made aware.
Absolutely. Number 3 is the 35, the new truck. The new truck that Bob Fisher delivered has the wrong, is not the correct truck per the spec. I have been writing from Bob Fisher, I've been working with Eric, they're going to supply us with 2022, we are paid in full. I'm waiting for the letter with a confirmed date for that to come through. They haven't sent me that yet. They've sent us a tentative agreement in writing where they're gonna replace this. We're to keep the other one and use it for the summer and just bring it back, and we're paid in full. Eric was looking for a date. And
Yeah.
he's,
What I would recommend that you do to memorialize the situation and your correction plan for this, and be able to hold them accountable if they fail to deliver, would be to enact a resolution that has a background in terms of what happened. It's essentially this letter, it's the background. But there's 2 components that we're still waiting, because I think they need to have a deadline to deliver the new truck. We're waiting to see when that can happen. And then 2, Keith, is the 10,000 mile limitation okay? You're not gonna,
absolutely.
you're not gonna exceed that, so, if everybody's okay with this plan of action, I will then go ahead and prepare a resolution for enactment at your workshop, and by then we should have a deadline for when the new truck will be delivered. So the bottom line is you'll be held harmless, you won't have to incur any additional fees or expenses. You might be getting a deal because you're gonna get a 2022 instead of 2021 for the price of the 21 truck.
Eric, my question to you is, if the truck becomes undeliverable per the date, they should notify us again in writing and ask for an extension? Is that satisfactory?
It is, as long as they can balance the fact that you still need to put miles on it, and so it can't become so excessive that the deal falls out. Also, in that case, would be a negotiated reduction in the price, since you didn't get what you paid for.
Well,
And so
that was
would be another-
a conversation piece, but at this point, I'm looking for a date, a delivery date.
So they're addressing the bed liner, and is there any other add-ins or upfits that we need to make sure get addressed so that you're covered and not out any money?
Yes, the bed liner was addressed. There's a door decal that's on it at this point that they will reimburse us for.
We're getting our logo put on the
It's
loaner-
already on the new
on the
one.
loaner truck.
It's already on the new one, and they're fine with that, let it there. They will compensate us for the next one, for the new one.
So we'll put all that in writing for your vote at the workshop.
The only other question that I have for the board was the Mariner grant stuff. You agreed to a 50%, 35,000 contribution to that. I removed that from the general fund from the road work, because I didn't know where else you were taking it from. So the amount that Eric and I worked on as far as coming up with a top dollar to put out for bid work is reflecting a $35,000 reduction if we're gonna go into that agreement. Is that where the board intended to take it from?
I'm not following you.
Yeah.
The
You're
additional
not following me?
35. So you're assuming that the school district will pay 50%?
I'm assuming that we're trying to enter an agreement for them, and 35,000 of that was coming from the municipality. And I reduced the road work from the general fund to reflect the $30,000 that wasn't there.
We're afraid we're gonna take that and put it back into the.
I'm asking if that's the correct thought.
Well, I think kinda how we left it was, we're gonna see if we can't rework that we can get that all covered, the pipe work, the 70,000, if he can do that.
I'm, right. I'm
And
just
I
telling,
wouldn't touch any of your money.
Yeah, I would leave that there for now, just.
that's what I did. I took and reduced the amount that we had to spend by 35,000, because if we enter into that agreement with the school, we have to cover it.
Okay.
I'm just making sure that's what you, the board want, where you wanted to take that money from. So it came from the road work. That's all I have. The last one is the Clyde Smith restroom repairs, and I put that with the agreements that you're gonna look at
Okay.
and for the next meeting.
SEO report. Library report. Tax collector report. Police department.
I just added the crime watch, just to show you how many folks use it and stuff like that. That's the only thing that's new there, but nothing else to add.
Zoning and code enforcement. EMS. Fire department. Park and Rec.
Yeah, we had a request list we sent in. We're trying to make sure we have approval for the Easter egg hunt on March 27th at 10. Because of the late start on this, we're asking for a budget of 500 and ask for Joe to send out donation letters.
Anyone want to make a motion for the 500 for the Easter budget?
And we might have somebody who might donate, so we may not even need that much, but we're planning not, and then if we end up having donations.
We have a motion, a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Request for quotes and pictures for sign sandblasting versus metal signs.
Yeah, that was on our thing. There was no pictures or quotes, so we didn't know what to do with it. It was on our agenda items. And it's hard to make a decision when you don't know anything, so.
Okay, do we know what this is for?
It's for the John Birdie and what's the other park?
John, can you scroll down for the agenda?
How much cheaper were the metal signs, remember? Keith, how much cheaper are the metal signs for Birdie Park?
They
versus-
I thought we were going with metal signs.
I thought-
Yeah, I thought we already agreed.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was on our agenda
The board
to
was
do.
gonna review, the Parks and Rec was gonna look at the Birdie Park sign, and then if that was the picture that they wanted to transfer to aluminum, we were gonna take that
Yeah,
logo and
Okay, so we
transfer.
wanted to go metal and then they would approve the,
yeah, that wasn't really that way, so we didn't
There
know.
wasn't any picture.
okay, so they need a picture of the sign so they can,
What we're looking at. I mean, the whole thing is, we proved one thing. Let's see. Let's go back here. We proved the John Birdie Park new sign, but then there was a second item saying, for about sandblasting or metal signs. I'm assuming that's for Clyde Smith. We didn't know. Don't know, can't tell you, so we threw it back at you because we didn't know what they were talking about.
Back to the Easter event, for the letters that I sent out, that's not to ask for any donation financially, it's like candy,
Yeah,
no money.
right.
I would think not. In the past, it was candy.
Yeah. Okay, Michelle, anything else you want to go over?
Okay, I mentioned that we request that, for the expenses and income for the Park and Rec, we only got the expenses, we didn't get the income, so we couldn't really look at what our budget was. Also, we mentioned about the audit, which and that we expect that the money be reimbursed out of the Carnival, at Carnival time, because the money's going to be needed for the fireworks. We looked at the cash procedure for the t-shirts at Carnival, which we'll do at the 250th. We wanted to update on the audit. And then below here, We had an informal fact-finding meeting with MMAA and soccer. The soccer wasn't able to attend. You know, we're gonna have the contracts to you for the review. Our next meeting, we'll have soccer there. We were planning on meeting with soccer and discussing. They reached out to me directly, never said they needed them done any earlier or anything till the end of the month. So it just doesn't look like we're talking.
Well, I would just have the contract there if they show up at your meetings.
Yeah, but I'm just a little confused because we should, you know, be looking at the contracts. We should be talking to them every year to see what maintenance needs to be done, what their plans are in the future, so that we can start working on a comprehensive plan ourselves. And from the way I had left it is they were going to come to the next meeting only to find out they're telling Joan that they want to get this signed immediately. So I think we need to be on the same page. What I think is happening is they're used to always going to Joan. That's really what we're supposed to be here for. So we want to be there.
Anything else?
Anything else, guys? Oh, yeah, approve Brandy. Brandy.
Resolution. Okay, so we have a resolution in front of us for Brandy Shell for Park and Rec, appointing her as a member to fill a vacancy. Resolution 2021-23.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Welcome aboard, bro.
Thank you.
Oh, I think I mentioned it. I need to also, we got the Keep Pennsylvania Clean, I forget what, Keep Pennsylvania Clean, wherever that initiative that the landfill does. I wanted to pursue that this year because we have really done a lot of community events. It'll be totally free for us. The only thing I would have to do is sign up on the website that we are a location. I thought we would probably just, the landfill offered to, like if I gave the supplies to the residents and supplied a place for them to pick up the bags of trash, they'll arrange to pick up the bags of trash. You know, I just pretty much just do it, basically. I just want to make sure you guys are okay with that.
We used to do that, Nora did that.
And they went through Park and Rec. I mean, that's Park and
Well,
Rec's
we
doing
did through
that.
Park and
Yeah.
Rec, but we also coordinated with the street sweeper too, people were cleaning up, so I don't know how you'd like to do that, I mean,
Yeah,
as
I mean-
long as the landfill's planning on picking up, because
Yeah.
last time we did it, there were just trash bags everywhere, and those guys weren't made aware to
No.
pick them up.
Yeah, so maybe I'll coordinate it. Basically, what I want to do is maybe have like a spot in each area, like each of the neighborhoods, and then maybe a place in town for the trash to be dumped, and have, this is the day you dump the trash, and have it arranged for them to pick it up. So I just want to make sure you guys are okay with that.
As long as you coordinate everything.
I'll coordinate everything, and it'll be free. So I just want to make sure I did before I made any plans, and I'll touch base with Keith to make sure we have the dates and everything. So, and he knows where we're putting the trash. So you guys weren't picking up any of the trash.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Planning Commission made minutes. Water sewer reports.
I think the plumbers are gonna be busy learning that, because the water company sent out a letter. If you don't have a certain check valve on your water line, you have to have one installed.
How the heck do you know if you have that?
Well, I asked the plumber that question, and they said the check valve should be right past.
It's right on the outside of the meter, and it's like an angle.
And I would be willing to guess that
There's not many people that have
70% don't
On
have
the
it.
water or on the sewer?
on the water.
Engineers
It's on the
report.
water. That's all they're doing,
I was
right?
just
It's
gonna
on the water.
note, you can send the stuff to Sunoco Pipeline about what we were requesting for that bonding. But we haven't heard anything back, this morning they didn't have, they got it. And I did meet with our environmental guy, Pine Hopewell. I gave him some information, we were getting some stuff together, he was gonna reach out to DEP to try to get a confirmation of what they're gonna wanna see moving forward, so once we hear back from them, we can proceed with what the next steps would be on that. I didn't have anything else on this unless anyone had any questions.
Has
there been any follow-up on some of the water issues that we addressed, like last regular meeting?
I've been going over some of the stuff with Keith, he sent me some pictures, we looked at a couple of the sites.
Okay.
All right, solicitors report.
Follow-up to last month, we did supply Matt just this week with police department policies that he'll review, and we'll try to tee that up for further discussion at your workshop meeting. No progress on that mutual aid agreement, it's still out for comment by the other municipalities. Apartments on Main contacted my office for the development agreements, and they've requested final plan approval. So we would expect the planning commission and then to address it next week, and then you to address it at the workshop. There's nothing changed from their prior reiterations. They sat on it for a while the apartments changed hands. There's a new owner, and I would expect that you'll see action here within the next few weeks to close that one out. On Burke's Home zoning text amendment, they did supply my office with a proposed zoning text amendment. They submitted an escrow to the township to ensure that your fees are reimbursed to you. And so I expect to be able to offer comments to that by the planning commission meeting next week. I guess we should confirm that they intend to appear at the planning commission. I think they are, but we should, one of us will need to send a.
It would have been, Gary McEwen, I guess. Gary McEwen, when he was here, I think he's the one that submitted it.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see him likely.
That's all I have. I do have a request for an executive session. I don't expect to request any official action after the meeting, after the executive session, but I need